Hello and welcome to the Health Detective Podcast by Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. We bring you interviews from people who have conquered the trickiest of health challenges using the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition philosophy and similar healing modalities. You're going to hear from experts who have been through the ringer with their health issues and yet managed to come out on the other side. You can always visit us at functionaldiagnosticnutrition.com, but for now, here is today's episode.
Yeah. We can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh my gosh, what a terrible host. What a terrible host. I'm on mute sitting here doing a whole intro. What is going on? Holy cow, I'm looking like an amateur here. So I will just start from the beginning and we can edit this afterwards. So thank you, Nancy, in the chat, too, telling me to turn your mic on. So welcome back to another episode of the Health Detective Podcast by Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. My name is Evan Transu, aka Detective Ev, and I will be your host for today's show. Apparently, I'm too excited for the holidays and a little vacation here because I was just saying how this is our last show of 2025, but I'm already checked out. I got the mic off and all that stuff. I'm kidding, though. We had to get on for these wonderful folks here. This is a super unique podcast for us. We've actually only done one episode like this where we've interviewed four people at once. And certainly we have never interviewed four people simultaneously who, if I'm not mistaken, are all under the age of 18 at once. So this is going to be pretty special. Quick things just before we get rolling here. Even though we will not have any more podcasts for you guys for the rest of 2025, if you're on audio, you'll never know the difference. You're probably listening to this in early 2026 anyway. But for 2025, a couple things with our YouTube channel. One, everyone always doesn't realize that since we stream these podcasts live, they don't fall under the videos tab. So if you're wanting to watch our podcast, we have hundreds of hours of stuff for you guys completely free on our channel. What you would want to do is go to our YouTube channel, which you're probably watching right now. Make sure you subscribe in the bottom right corner. Shameless YouTube host plug, right? So you get subscribed under the live tab. So not videos, not shorts, but under the live tab, that's where you can see the hundreds of hours of content. We actually had a whole discovery series too in our Black Friday event, which we just came off of. And that had a couple of keynotes, live case studies with labs. All of those are available to you guys completely for free. So that should keep you busy. And if that somehow does not, if you're like, Ev, I just need some podcasts for the rest of 2025, then you can go to fdntraining.com/insider. That's fdntraining.com/insider, where we are doing a 12 days of Christmas special that has already been recorded, already done for you guys. And they're more like little intensives. They're about 20 to 30 minutes a pop. So if you are busy during the holidays, you don't have to sit for a 3-hour podcast and try to digest every little bit of information and get the golden nuggets out of an otherwise very long conversation. It's all golden nuggets. You jump right in and you will be good to go. That's fdntraining.com/insider. We'll get you that link. And I'm looking forward to being back with you guys live in early January for our normally scheduled stuff. But let's move to our guest today. So I am super impressed by this because, well, for a variety of reasons. One, it's hopeful to me to see such young people involved in the holistic health space. And you won't believe what they've already done. It's really cool when I get to their bio. But two, and they might not even know this yet because they got to host Reed Davis, our founder of FDN, on their podcast, which I cannot encourage you guys enough to go listen to, go check out, especially if you have kids out there. They might be able to relate to these young folks here where they might not be able to relate to me, unfortunately, anymore since I'm now 30, or the people who are, in their 50s and 60s hosting these podcasts. They might need to hear from a different voice. I'm not here to tell my story today, that's for sure, but I just wanted to say how much I respect, seriously, what you guys are doing, because I was a teenager suffering severely with mental health issues. I was sick from about 5 to 18 years old. It led to a lot of substance abuse. I got kicked out of school for it. I don't hide any of these things on the show. This is stuff we share publicly. And I can't help but think, wow, what if there was people that I knew that were also my age that were into this stuff and educating me? Because now, all these years later, I don't deal with any of those diagnosed mental health issues that I once had. I don't take medication for it. I don't go to therapy for it. Although, by the way, guys, I'm not against any of those things. I'm just saying I don't need those things anymore. I'm very blessed, and it's because of what I was able to do holistically here. So let's get into the formal bio for these folks here. And guys, I apologize. These are just names that I don't get to say every single day, so they will correct me if I messed anything up here. So we have Abdullah, Zain, Emaad, and Qasim Ansari, who are 17, 14, 12, and 10, respectively. And they're the hosts of the Holistic Kids Show podcast, national speakers, and co authors of the traditionally published book, The Teen Health Revolution: Lifestyle Secrets to Optimize Your Body, Mind, and Soul, which is released, I guess, at this point, November 13th, 2025. They are the co authors of Adam's Healing Adventures children's health book series. The Holistic Kids have lectured at the leading integrative and functional medicine conferences. Can you believe this? Including being the first youth speakers at the 2024 International Institute of Functional Medicine, A4M 2025, and the Mindshare Summit 2025. Just to put it this way, Mindshare Summit is where like Reed goes to pay to be a member of, guys. So really big stuff here. They have also spoken at the Nourished Festival, served as keynote speakers at the YMCA Interfaith Mayor's Breakfast, and presented at major conferences like MAS, ICNA, reaching audiences of over 60,000 people. In May 2025, Abdullah was featured in the docuseries Young and Thriving as a young voice for mental health, so thank you so much, who is bringing a unique perspective of today's youth into the conversation. Abdullah and Zain have made appearances on the Emmy Award-winning Dr. Nandi show. The Holistic Kids have been featured in top podcasts and print and online media outlets like Wellness Mama Podcast, Rational Wellness Podcast, and the Holistic Primary Care magazine. Guys, welcome to the show. This is absolutely incredible.
Well, it's really our pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you so much for that amazing introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, so I hate to give you such a generic podcast question to start off, but I mean, I am genuinely fascinated by this. I assume the audience is as well. And I'm not sure who's going to take this, so you guys try to be fair if you can with dividing it up. But how on earth is even one of you at this age interested in this stuff, let alone all four of you? How did this even happen?
So our parents and grandparents, and basically everyone, all our relatives, they were all in the medical field. So at the beginning, everyone was obsessed with medicine. Like they were all doctors. But when we were sick, like I had eczema, mood disorders, we all had these so much issues. We realized that, conventional medicine isn't helping us. And our mom specifically knew this, and we were like really young. So she decides, slowly change her diet. And while doing this, we also learned like how our body works and like how we should treat our body and what we should eat and how we should live our lifestyle.
Yeah, and so plus, after we started learning all these things our mom taught us, we realized how much it could affect us and benefit us. And as we started to benefit and as we started to notice the differences, we realized how much the world needed this. Because right now, teenagers, like 1 in 2 kids have at least one persistent health condition. CDC says 1 in 3 teens have prediabetes. 3/4 of adolescents are dealing with depression and anxiety. And these statistics are continuing to get worse and worse and worse. And the thing that most teens and adults and kids are missing out on is that we can actually reverse these statistics and put our bodies back into balance if we start to fix our lifestyles. And that's what we start to notice in our lives. And we start to interview, we've interviewed over 200 plus experts, world-renowned experts, New York Times bestsellers, and Harvard professors, and even more on our podcast, The Holistic Kids Show. And we ask them our burning questions. We ask them, why is this happening? Can we kids do anything about it? Do we have to wait until adulthood to do anything about it? And the answers they gave us hope that anybody, teens, kids, adults, can all reverse and put their lives back into balance so that we don't have to live sick into adulthood. And that's the message we're trying to give out, is that there is hope and we can continue to inspire. Like, that's why we want to inspire others and become a ripple effect in communities where this knowledge gets out more.
Mm-hmm. And especially because in the teen health world, teen health is so neglected. When you get when you go to the library, you go to the medical stuff, the only things you find about teens are about hormones or mental health. We're not talking about the entire whole of the body, because there's so much that plays into mental health that is like, or mental health, physical health, spiritual health, that isn't being taught in schools or found in books. So that's why we decided to use this information from podcasts, 200 experts, because we're not experts like fully. Like we don't have like a medical degree or anything. We're just here like listen. We're just kids trying to find answers. So that's why we put all these amazing tips and quotes into one book, but we added our relatable
practical tips, because let's be completely honest here. There's so much information out there, but like nobody wants to read a book with a bunch of like facts and statistics. And so even we get bored doing that. And so we're like, if even adults can't do it, teens are definitely not going to do it. And so we decided to make it simple, easy, and we added practical tips. And that's really where we are. And we're continuing on that track right now.
Can I ask really quick? So I know one of you had mentioned, eczema and stuff like that. Did you all have individual health symptoms, or was anyone kind of like good to go? I'd love to know what each person was dealing with.
I mean, I had patches of eczema all over my body.
Okay.
Yeah, I had like terrible like mood disorders like as a kid.
And I had sinus issues that like impact like sinus issues like that impacted my life.
And for me, I had dizziness, headaches, constant headaches, lots of different issues that conventional medicine could not help. And once I started to actually use food as medicine, I was able to finally be able to live like, a human again, like live like myself again. And the problem is that so many teens out there, they're dealing with disease after disease, issue after issue. And they feel, I know my classmates, my peers, the people, my friends, they feel like that there's no hope. That once you have ADHD, that once you have eczema, once you have sinus issues, once you have all these problems, once you have mental health issues, that you are just going to live with that for the rest of your life. And that's the message we're trying to get out to people, is that there is hope, that you can heal from it. We are now completely, all of us are completely rid of what we used to have.
Nice.
And now we live the life that, we've always been wanting to live before this. And it all came down to just our lifestyle. And that's the message, that you don't have to be stuck on a pill, because that's what's really happening right now.
Now, here's something I think is going to be very interesting for the parents, because I was telling Tracy, who produces our podcast, I was telling her off air beforehand why I was excited to talk to you guys, because so many people say, and they say this to us, they'll be like, oh, how would we ever get young people to change their lifestyle? I can't even get adults to change their lifestyle. I think it is, and I mean this genuinely, I'm not just being nice just because you guys are here. I've seen this on both sides. I believe it's the opposite. I actually believe young people are more open to change, but don't have the information. Whereas like adults, I'll be straight up, especially once I turn 25, 26, which would make sense because the brain kind of stops really developing at that time. It almost does seem that I have to try a little bit harder now to get out of old habits or to try something new. And I still do it because I'm conscious of it, but it almost is like there's more resistance now. So I don't think it's a fair comparison at all when people say, oh, I can't even get adults to do it. Why would young people do it? I think it's the opposite. But what I would like to ask from you guys is truly, if you're talking to classmates about these things or just young people in general, how do they respond? Because I'd have to imagine there's some people that don't respond maybe they just don't want to do it. But I think there's a lot more that do respond positively, because I don't know if you guys read this part. I mean, I go to schools and speak about mental health, and everyone told me when I went and spoke about mental health, no one was going to want to hear about the lifestyle changes. It has been the exact opposite. So I give my mental health story in the school. I tell them, hey, I used this natural stuff and that worked for me. I'll have a line of 20, 30 kids that are asking about like, wait, what did you say about sleep? What did you say about this? So I find that they do listen. I'd love to know what your guys' experience has been talking to other young people specifically about this stuff.
So especially teenagers, like I go to high school and a lot of people, they're eating like the worst food, but they're only eating the worst food because they think it tastes good or they think it's not going to do anything to themselves. But that's because we're not educated. Adults or even a lot like teachers and everyone, we're not educating teens or anyone to live this healthy lifestyle. So why would a teen want to change for no reason if they don't even know why they're changing?
And plus, I remember I was in class one day, and the teacher was talking about how the school was trying to get rid of Skittles and M&Ms, and banning these kind of foods from the school. And the entire class, this is like 10th grade, the entire class erupts like, how could they? We have to petition them. We have to fight against the school. We want our M&Ms. We want our Skittles. And I looked to the guy next to me who's all riled up, and I'm like, don't you even know what's in the food? Don't you know that they have carcinogens in them? Red 40, yellow number 5 are carcinogens that lead to cancer, and this is what we're eating. He said, no. I mean, I didn't know that. I just thought that they tasted good. That's why I like them. And so this is the reality, is that most people don't know that these ultra-processed foods are destroying our health. I mean, what statistics just came out? I think I just saw the ultra-processed foods are linked to the harm of almost every single body part in our body. They are linked to over 32 chronic diseases, and they're a main source and reason of this mental health epidemic we're dealing today, of this, chronic disease epidemic we're dealing today. The reason why kids are dealing with prediabetes at such a young age, when it was like an old person disease, is because we're not putting the right foods in our body, and we don't. And the reason is because we don't know what is in the food that we're eating.
You might be, I don't know if you're surprised by this, maybe you already know this, but what's very interesting to me, and this is another reason why I do think young people are going to be more open to this once they understand the cause. Like you said, they don't know. They're not getting educated on it. So it's really unfair to me when people say, oh, young people won't change. I'm like, well, do they know? Maybe let's tell them first and then see what they do. That's a separate thing. But what's been scary for me, guys, and this is why I'm so glad that there's people like you out there. I'm 30 now. So remember, I would have been in high school all of 12, 13 years ago. And let's say 15 years for 15 years old. When I was in school only 15 years ago, I was by far one of the sickest kids there that I knew. There wasn't a bunch of kids, at least that I knew of, dealing with like severe acne. Yes, we had, and by the way, none of this is a judgment for the audience listening. I hope that's clear. I'm just stating things that would be markers of poor health. There was kids that were overweight, but it was kind of out of the ordinary. Like it wasn't that common. Like most kids were doing okay. There was a small fraction, maybe 10, 20% that weren't. And then, most of them were doing all right. But now when I go into a school, again, just 15 years later, I swear, I mean, maybe I'm just more aware of it, but I feel like I'm looking at, like you said, 50% of kids, and either there's skin issues or they're overweight or they just look so tired. That's another thing. There's like a fatigue that they have on their face from just being exhausted. And so my question to you, and I don't want to put you on the spot with this, I'm just curious if you guys have thought about this. What other changes do you think have maybe happened in the last 15 years that is leading to this? Because, I know we're talking about food, but I don't know if you guys ever get to the staying up way too late because of like phones and technology. So what do you think are some of the main contributing factors that are leading to such a rapid rise in these diseases in young people?
I think it's like phones after like 2 hours before you sleep is like if you're just scrolling all night, and then when you go to school you're so tired, you're just sleeping in class, and then you get home and then you do the whole cycle again.
Yes. Also, right now, that's why we talk about all aspects of lifestyle, because right now, teens, we don't know how to manage our stress. We're in a stressful world like never before, with social media, with the news, with constantly running from one class to another, exposed to so much because of our phones. And we don't know how to manage our stress anymore because of the constant dopamine hits that we're being hit. Especially now, most kids have a phone addiction, actually. I would definitely describe it as that, because if 96% of Gen Zers, actually this study came out, 96% of Gen Zers say that they can't even go to the bathroom without taking their phone. Like
Wow.
And I've noticed this, and I don't know if you noticed this, but we've noticed that teens literally, they get like anxious. They get like, if they don't have their phone in their pocket.
Yeah, I was thinking about like stress and the comparison. It really puts like people down when they see on social media all people have. Then you see what someone has, maybe something that you really want, and you don't have it. That really puts a negative subconscious, like making you think negative about what you don't have instead of what you do have.
And plus, it's the fact that honestly, we're not mindful. We are just randomly visually consuming. We're just visually consuming whatever comes on our screen, or putting whatever we can find into our mouths. We're just, kind of like I noticed in high school, we're just walking day to day. We're not focusing on like our future. We're just, mindlessly doing stuff when we lack purpose. And I've noticed this that a lot of teens, they just don't know what they're doing. They just live on that hamster wheel. They wake up, they just do what they need to do, they go to sleep. A lot of us, we're not being grateful. Or when it comes to negativity, we are the most negative people I think I've ever met. I mean, I hate my life, I hate school, I hate homework. Like, how are we ever supposed to succeed, and how are we supposed to become better with a negative mindset like that?
Yeah, like if you think about like our subconscious governs 90% of our thoughts and actions. So when hate everything about your life and you keep thinking negative, you're not gonna think positive. That's why you start subconscious to negative to positive.
And that's why, like you mentioned, how we're just, there's a fatigue. Honestly, I felt like in high school that everyone was just moving around like zombies, like just from day, like through the entire, like through the halls, in the classrooms. Like we're missing a big aspect, and that is mindfulness. We're not being mindful about what we're doing. We're not being mindful about how we're sleeping, how we're thinking, how we're acting, what we're doing. And that is costing us our future at this point. That's why us teens need to wake up, because if we continue like this, we're never going to succeed in life. And we think that, once we become adults, then we'll start thinking more. But how will we? But honestly, most teens are going to continue this habit into their adulthood. I mean, what people are spending 6, 8 hours on social media, they're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. The screen time limits, like, they're going crazy right now. And right now, we teens need help, and we need to be educated that this is not how we're supposed to be living life.
And
yeah, like in my class, they're like arguing because like in my class is like they're just like, oh, last night I was playing for like 6 and 7 hours and just scrolling a whole time, and I'm like, that's so much. Like you should try to like shrink it down a lot.
Mhm. And we could blame this as much as we want on teens, but we have to also realize that the people behind these, maybe most of them are adults behind these, behind the phone, behind these ultra processed foods, behind all the toxins that we're exposed to. They're all constantly trying to make us addicted because we are their consumers. We are making the money without us even noticing it.
Yeah, like the biggest profit of a company is a sick child. Like they're benefiting a lot from this.
So yeah, the advancement that these ultra processed foods, these phones, social media companies have been like upgrading their systems to make us more addicted is also a huge product of today's generation.
And then when you go to like the doctor's office, they just give you a pill, and then that makes you worse. And they give you another pill, and then you pay so much money, and now they have like the billionaires.
Yes. I like that you guys already know and are teaching people, because listen, some of this stuff's a little, I will admit, it's a little intimidating, and it can even be a little scary to think about when we're first starting. And I mean at any age, when we really think about the idea that, oh yes, there is someone out there, maybe not the majority of people who create social media. Some people are just doing their normal jobs and trying to get a paycheck. I get that. We all got to pay the bills. But someone out there did decide, all right, how do I make TikTok as addicting as possible so that when people use this, they continue to use it like a drug? So I like that you guys address that, because it's something that people need to be realistic about. Because when they start to view some of these things like social media, that, hey, this is not just supposed to be mindless consumerism. This is something that someone created so that you can't stop scrolling from it. I'm not saying that makes it able so that everyone can change overnight, but I don't know about you, that makes me, in a good way, a little bit angry. Like, I don't want to sit on there and scroll endlessly if I know that some dude out there is trying to make me do that. That makes me want to kind of fight back and stop using it as much. So that one's probably going to be a little bit tricky. This leads to a next question, though. We might come back to that other thing. You guys are obviously in public school because you said you're classmates. So the reason that I say that is because if you were homeschooled, then someone in the audience could say, well, that's easier because then that you can control the diet, whatever. But it's like, no, you're going to school. I guess you could be going to private as well. I'm just saying you're going to school with other people who are doing things dramatically different than you guys. So I would love to know, how has it been for you trying to integrate these new habits? I'd love to know from each of you. How has it been trying to integrate these new habits that have led to better health, but you still got to go to school where they're serving crazy things at lunch or they have crazy stuff at the vending machines? Like, how do you live day to day? Like, is it just getting support from the family at home and then you bring your own lunch? I'd love to know how you manage these habits while still having to go to a normal school, of course.
So we do bring our own lunches to school, and we make sure that these lunches are as nutritious as like things that they're gonna help us boost us for the rest of the day. But it's really interesting because a lot of these kids, actually, the name of the people who are supplying the food for our schools, the brand is called Organic Life. But then they're serving things like Takis, Cheetos, all these terrible lunches, and I don't know why they're doing it, because it's just like manipulating people. Like, oh yeah, I'm eating so well. Like these Doritos must be healthy because it's like Organic Life. And then they see us, and then you're like, oh, why aren't you eating this? Why aren't you eating that? And we can kind of explain to them, because like we said at the beginning, they don't really know. So when you can tell them that, you know what, this is not really good for us, but this is good for us and it tastes even better, then they're gonna try that and they're gonna actually really like it. Like a lot of, like whenever I bring like these lentil chips, everyone's like attacking it. So
Nice.
And also, it's really because we know what we're putting in our mouths and we know what they're eating. Like, people ask us, like, how do you go to school and see everyone else eating this? And like, how do you just not eat that? Like, and for us, it seems like common sense because they're just eating poisonous garbage at that point. That's not real food. We like to call it fake food substances. If we see a Cheeto or Taki, that's not food to us because we know what they've done to it. It's a substance that they've done, that they've chemically engineered so that it's addictive to us and it looks good to us. And I remember some guy, I think we interviewed him, where he said that if we removed all the chemicals and preservatives and everything from like a Taki or Cheeto, it just looked it looked like terrible. Like you wouldn't even like want to eat it, or looking at it would be disgusting. And that's the reality, is that they've made these things to look like, amazing to eat, but in reality they are destroying our bodies. And that's what our mom taught us, and that's what I think teens, and especially parents listening, if you want children and teens to start making the conscious decision when you're even not there, it all starts by the education. Because once you start educating them that this is what like Takis has, this is what Cheetos, Doritos, that when you put this into your body, you're destroying your body. Read the ingredients. And I think this is the best way to put it in perspective. We used to, like, when we started this, I think when I was like 7, Emaad, Zain,
I was like 4 years old.
Wow.
1 or 2.
So we started this. And my favorite food ever, like hands down, was Flaming Hot Cheetos and Fanta. And nowadays, I look at that, like I said, it doesn't look appetizing to me. And so our mom, she taught us. I remember we were going through like the cereal aisle back in like when I was 10 years old, and we were still, step by step learning. And I saw us like the animals on the cereal boxes, and I was like, oh, why can't we have this? Why can't we have that? And my mom, she said, okay, if you want it, first of all, turn it around and tell me what's inside of it. To look at the ingredients and tell me if you can read any of that. And so I turned it around and looked at the ingredients, and it's a bunch of like chemicals that looked like they were made in a chemical lab by scientists in like white lab coats with goggles on, and I couldn't pronounce any of it. And that's
Bad scientists.
And our mom, she said, okay, do you know what any of that is? That's what you're going to put in your body. And she told us then to research that. Okay, she said, so, high fructose corn syrup, that's in everything now. Look it up. What does that do to our body? We looked it up. It's linked to higher risks of cancer. It's linked to more chronic disease, more mental health issues. And from then on,
higher blood sugar.
Yeah, and higher like blood sugar levels. And our mom said that, do you want in the future, after eating this, do you want that? Do you want to live sick in your life? Because this is only going to make you sicker and sicker and sicker. And no kid, like we like to say this, like no kid wants to feel sick. And at the end of the day, that's what we start taking, for ourselves. And now when we look at other stuff, when we find places, we ask the ingredients, we, make sure that that it's something that we want to put in our body. Because everything, at the end of the day, we interviewed experts and they all said the same thing, that food can either help you or hurt you. And that's the message that we continue to take on, because that's the reality of what we're living in today.
I love how you guys are like the best. I feel like you speak so highly of your mom. Is it fair to, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it fair to say you guys might not even be doing any of this, and unfortunately you might even have many of those health issues if it wasn't for mom originally kind of bringing these ideas into the table?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, because I mean, we were 4 years old and like 6 or 7 years old. Like we didn't really know that much about. So obviously, like someone has to teach us, and that's why parents are so important, because parents need to be better role models for teens. Because like if you see your parent like constantly scrolling, what makes you not want to scroll? Like what makes you so?
And plus, like our mom, she taught herself first. The problem is that with, like, especially if I can speak for teens, is that first when we ask our parents a lot of the times, why can't we do this? The answer is usually, oh, because I said so. And as teens, we're like, okay, that's not a good answer. I'm gonna just go do it anyways. And so the problem is that the reason why most parents they reply with, because I said so, especially when it comes to phones, when it comes to food, when it comes to lifestyle, is because most parents don't know why themselves. And so it starts with you, parents. It starts with you educating yourself so that you can educate us. Because please, if you don't educate yourself, then our future is going to be at risk. Then we're going to live sick. Because if our mom didn't take that initiative, then we would be in a completely different place today. We'd be probably living with even worse conditions. And I can't even imagine how terrible that would be for us. And that's really the reality of so many people living today. And so many teens, is that their parents don't know, and so they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, there's so many things here. So one of them is there's this quote online. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but it's actually in the health space a lot, and it's kind of set up as a meme, I guess. And it says so many parents say they would die for their children, which I do believe is true. I think many parents would. But then the next question is, but how many parents would live for them? And so what that means is, it's amazing how many parents that if they were like, someone came to them and said, right now, it's either me or your kid. They're gonna be like, all right, just take me, do whatever you need to do. And of course, that's a hypothetical. Hopefully that never happens, but they would do that. I believe that my mom and dad would do that all day. But then the next question is, well, would you live for them? What that means is, while you're here though, are you going to be an excellent role model? Are you going to give up the bad habits that your kids are now picking up? Are you going to start to engage with better habits that they can also pick up from? And because you kind of beat me to it, because my next question was going to be, I don't know if that was just one situation with the cereal box, where it sounds like it was well, you just said the animals on the boxes. I don't know if we were talking about cereal, but whether it was that or something else, it sounds like the way that your mom did all of this was never, hey, none of you guys are going to eat this ever again because I said so, be quiet. It sounds like almost everything was, hey, you in theory could eat this if you want to, but first you got to tell me again what all that stuff is, what that means, figure out how that chemical's made. And then if you still want to eat it somehow, sure, you're more than welcome. But it doesn't sound like she ever said no just because I said so. It sounds like she set it up so that you guys had to do your own research. And then any logical person, once they do their own research, says, well, wait, I don't want to do this. So mom never even needed to say no. She just educated you guys, or led you to that education. So you said no yourselves. Is that fair to say that that's how she handles it all the time, or handled it?
Yeah. And sometimes, like, a lot of people think that we live under a rock. Like, they say, you don't have cereal, you don't have ice cream, no pizza, you just eat fruits and veggies all day. Like, that must be really depressing. But in reality, we have pizza, we have ice cream, we have cereal, we have candy, but we just have the natural versions of it. And that's what our mom used to do. She, instead of having that cereal or whatever I was like looking at back in the day, she got something that was natural, something that was actually good for our bodies, but something that but it's, at the same time, it tasted good. So she was there for us. She's the one that helped teach us. But then at the same time, as kids, we have a sweet tooth. So then she gave us healthy swaps and alternatives. And that's, at that point, we didn't feel like we were missing out. And we still don't, because we at the same time are having that good food that everybody likes to enjoy. I mean, we just had pizza and ice cream, but we have the natural versions and the things that are not going to destroy our body. Like, we don't feel guilty after having that ice cream, because we know that ice cream is actually going to even help our body at a point.
Right.
Compared to, I know a lot of people, they feel they eat ice cream, they eat a bunch of pizza, and their stomach is destroying them the next day. Like, oh, why did I have that? For us, we don't have any of that, and we can just enjoy it. Is there any more?
And that's what people forget too, because for even myself, I had to be very strict at one point with the health stuff to get better. But that's because for over 18 years of my life, I was eating poorly. Like, the reality is, and I wouldn't test this just because I don't support it, but the reality is, if I went out today after 12 years of doing this health thing, if I ate McDonald's, I probably wouldn't love it. Maybe my stomach would get mildly upset, but I'm sure I wouldn't just break into depression the next day or get cystic acne. You know what I mean? Like, I can probably survive some of that. But that's the thing. No one really balances it. Is either they become health people like us, or they're still on that, kind of standard Western lifestyle of just eating the craziest foods in the world. I mean, the reality is, if we were more balanced from day one, we probably could get away with some of this stuff. But that's not what my generation or your generation got to experience. Unintentionally, at least from our parents' perspective, we were kind of poisoned from day one. And so we got sicker much faster. I think that's what we're seeing. So next, I'd like to know this, please. I want to know what your guys' vision is. I mean, it sounds like you want people to be educated about the food thing, but there's such an energy to you when you talk. I can tell that purpose, like you said, and that passion's there. So there must be some image or vision in your mind of what you all are looking to achieve. So I'd like to know, like, what does the next 5 to 10 years of your mission look like? How do you know that you're on the right track, or that you're making the right moves? I'd love to know more about that, please.
So honestly, we just want kids and teens and adults to just start thinking about it. I know for our friends, like, when we talk to them, when we tell them about this, the greatest thing, I know what they've done is that then they they take a picture. A few days later, they'll take a picture and be like, oh, I got this organic milk, and they'll show me their fridge. And I'm like, okay, you see, that's improvement. And that's what I was just saying. Take it step by step. That's what we did. For us, it didn't happen overnight. And for us, we just, we eventually stopped, like, I think 10 years ago. First, we stopped eating McDonald's. Then, we were still eating other stuff. We were still eating like GMOs and, the Cheerios and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, we started learning more, and we cut down something else. Then we cut off something else. Then we cut off something else. And step by step, over the next 10 years, we started to then put our lives back into balance. And that's really what we want, is for people to start thinking about it, start implementing these simple things. Like, if you eat out McDonald's once a week, I know that's like pretty good around these standards. Yeah. But if you eat it once a day, go for once a week. If you eat it once a week, try to do it once a month. If you have ultra processed foods all the time, maybe implement, in the morning when you're having your Cheerios or ultra processed foods, have some natural foods. Because once we start then retraining our taste buds to start, being like, okay, like, these natural foods, the ones that are actually going to heal us and not hurt us, now we start to like them better as well. Because I know a lot of people, a reason that they don't want to eat natural foods is because they have this stigma that natural foods are disgusting. Like, nobody wants to eat, yes, like an orange. Like, I've heard that. Like, people don't like fruit because it's natural.
Yeah, and also, you can't just go from one day eating amazingly healthy and then the next day eating, you can't go from eating terrible one day and then eating perfectly the next day. That's not realistic. You have to, because then the next day after that, then you're going to go back to eating terribly. So you have to go step by step, make it very slowly so you can gain that routine, create that habit of eating real food. And then once you grow that routine, then you can have a little treat, because then it will be easier to go back to that routine instead of just constantly breaking it. So when you can create that routine and create that habit that puts real foods first, then you can really build a healthier lifestyle. And I think it's very doable and easy that way.
So you all would love to see, a world where people, it sounds like, just have the choice. Because I like the way that you worded that in the beginning. You didn't say, I want every single person eating this way 100% of the time. You said you would at least like them to know. And you know what, guys? I take the same approach. Listen, I would like for everyone to make one type of decision. You guys already know which one that is. I want them to live the healthier lifestyle. But at the end of the day, I believe in people having a free choice. If someone wants to go to McDonald's, I don't think I have the right to tell them not to go. And it doesn't sound like you think that either. However, I'd love to see McDonald's go out of business because so many people voluntarily choose to not go. And so that's the best that we can do. We can educate and understand people are individuals and they should be allowed to make their own decisions and stuff as long as they're not hurting anyone else. But that's the thing. I think if more people were educated on this, it would have to change. And for better or for worse, I think that's where we found ourselves right now. I've mentioned this a few times on the show, but it normally doesn't come up. At 18, when I got my 7th diagnosed condition, so I literally now have 7 different diagnosed health conditions at the age of 18. When I then started to study the natural stuff. And when I started to understand what you guys clearly have now understood for years, which is, again, incredible. When I started to understand why I might have gotten those conditions, I admittedly was very upset. I almost was envious, if I'm being honest. I was saying, like, why does no one else feel this way? Like, why is it just me and a handful of the other people that I know? And then something that I wish was not true was true. Because I thought to myself and I said, if I'm right about why I think I got sick, then that means it's only a matter of time before we see a next generation where, what the heck did you say it is? 1 in 2 people that are or 1 in 2 kids was it a chronic disease you said, or chronic symptoms?
1 in 2 kids have at least one persistent health issue.
So I thought that might happen. I never thought it would happen that fast. Because remember, we were talking 15 years before. 18 was only 12 years ago for me. And now we went from, hey, maybe 20% of the kids in my school had something. So I'm not even talking about a chronic disease. I'm just saying maybe they were overweight. Maybe they had some acne. And in 10, 12 years, we go to 1 in 2 kids have a chronic disease. So that's not sustainable at all. And I think both adults and teenagers are like, they're waiting for these answers. Many of us are just praying for these answers, like hoping that they find us. And it's folks like you guys that are out there spreading it. So how can people further support you? I know that we mentioned some of this stuff in the bio, but I would like you guys to take the time to talk about everything that you're doing between the podcast, speaking gigs, and books. Like this is your moment. You guys all seem very humble, but to me, tell us all the stuff that you're doing.
So first and foremost, make sure to try and get our book, Teen Health Revolution.
Releasing
December 11th, 2025. You can pre-order right now on the teenhealthrevolution.com to get our free bonuses. We have recipes, shopping lists, amazing pictures drawn by Zain, and so much more. There are 3 parts in the book. Like we talk about why it's just suffering. Then we go over the revolution and teens can empower with simple, expert-backed lifestyle tips that they can use to help their mind, body, and soul. Teens can also use a simple revolution to maybe just flip to a chapter or page and use the revolution acronym to educate themselves and implement a key principle into their life. And then in the 3rd section, we go over 20 chronic conditions that teens are dealing with today, like acne, digestive issues, and mood disorders. We got our mom with that. We're not a doctor, okay? But this is all expert-backed because we interviewed over 200. We interviewed 200 experts, over 200 experts on our podcast. So check that out. It's called Holistic Kids Show. That's our podcast. Mm-hmm. And of course, make sure to check that out.
Yeah, and you can find all that on our theholistickidshow.com and more book stuff on theteenhealthrevolution.com. But you can find us for all of our updates on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever. TikTok. Yes, on TikTok. Really whatever. But we're not really big on TikTok. We don't like to mess around with TikTok because it's very
TikTok is TikTok.
But yeah, if you have TikTok, then we're still there. So yeah, check us out there, the Holistic Kids Show. We're everywhere.
But right now, we are teens, adults, kids. We're slaves to the food industry. We're slaves to the tech industry. We're slaves to the society right now that's not helping us become better. And like you said, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. We are the next future engineers, the next future doctors, the next future businessmen, the next future lawyers and entrepreneurs. If we don't do something now, then what's going to happen to the next generation? If our brains are not working properly, what's going to happen to us? And that's why we need this revolution now. We need this teen health revolution. And that's where we're trying to advocate for. Because if we don't do this, then like our generation is going to suffer. So please educate yourself. Please educate your teen. Also, it's super simple, easy, free. I mean, in the book, like Emaad mentioned, we have like over 200 plus expert back tips. Simple, easy, anybody can do them. But then for those people who are more like us and don't want to 100% read all of that info and all of the statistics and stuff, we have at the back of each chapter, what do the holistic kids do? And so practical, easy things that anybody can do to change life, because we want anybody to be able to hold this in a book in their hands, or hold this in their hands as an easy guide with expert back lifestyle tips to help their mind, body, and soul. And so please start to actually, go through this revolution, and don't ignore this, because if we continue to ignore it, it's not going to go away.
So yeah, supporting this book is supporting a teen health revolution, a revolution for the future, because it's a movement. We're trying to create this movement for teens to really start caring and start understanding about their health. So yeah, that's why we made this book for teens by teens, because we know teens aren't going to listen to adults. So that's why
that is true. It is true. I did a lot better in the schools with speaking when I didn't have the beard, and I started at like 22, and everyone thought I was a high school student, so it worked out. And now it's not working as well now that I'm 30 with the beard. So, all right, I love that super easy way to support you guys. And guys, this is what I always say. Even if you're not going to buy their book, which I highly recommend that you do, but even if you weren't going to do that, just at least a simple follow on some of these platforms and liking the stuff and sharing it, all of that matters. All of that helps our guests that come on. And I think there's 1,000,001 reasons to support these guests in particular, because we've had a very upbeat conversation today, guys, but the reality is we were talking about something serious. And to see myself and in 12 years go from, I'm using rough estimates, but maybe it was 1 in 4 kids had a chronic disease. I don't know. I know it wasn't 1 in 2, that's for sure. And to see in only 10 to 12 years it go to 1 in 2, I mean, you guys pose a really good question. What happens next? What is it going to be in another 10 to 20 years if we don't stop? So the way that I see this is I think we all are in an interesting time where we have the ability to kind of rewrite our history. And unfortunately, a lot of suffering with chronic disease has already happened, but we do have an ability to rewrite the history right now by starting today. And again, I like to keep an upbeat personality on the show, but the reality is if we do not start today or really get involved with this, it's not going to be so much fun in the next 10 to 20 years. I don't want to know what a world's like when can you guys imagine if it's 3 out of 4 young adults are dealing with some type of chronic disease? I mean, that's not impossible. That's not a ridiculous statement. That could happen in our lifetimes if we don't get this changed. But I would say as long as people like you are out there, and I mean this seriously, I'm not just being nice to you guys. As long as you guys are out there, I'm like, holy cow, there is so much hope for the future because I know what one voice can do. I know what one podcast can do. I know what one book can do. It can influence a lot of human beings. So all the props to you guys and what you're doing. I want to ask all 4 of you the signature question on the show before we wrap up today. So we'll get an answer from all of you in whatever order you'd like to do it with. And if there is overlap in answers, that's totally fine. I just want you to do whatever's authentic to you. So the signature question for the show is normally if people could do one thing for their health, what would you have them do, or what would you have them stop doing? And I would assume it's probably similar for adults and young adults, but I'll change it up a little bit today and say, if you guys could get every young adult who is listening to this show or will eventually listen to this show to do just one thing for their health, what would you get that young adult to start doing or stop doing? And again, I'd love to hear from all of you.
So I think they should get out to nature more, because they're mindlessly scrolling inside and not touching grass. And get the vitamin N.
Yeah.
Vitamin H.
Yeah, vitamin E. That's what it's called.
Okay, great.
I think that if every teen could really if every teen could really educate themselves, if every kid could maybe open a book or do some research, look at some science, and really what are they eating? Go maybe look at your pantry, look at what maybe is less good for you. If you could really understand what you're putting inside your body, I think that can make a huge impact on teens.
Awesome.
I think, honestly, just being mindful. Mindfulness means being fully present in the world. Like, when you're mindful, you can unlock your true potential. Because now, like what Qasim was talking about, and like every whole podcast, like we teens are scrolling, eating whatever, staying up late, sitting on the couch, playing video games for hours and hours and hours. Like, it is time for us kids to stop blindly following, putting toxins on and in our bodies. Like, we are living mindlessly. That's why I think if we just learn to see what we're to feel what we're smelling, feel what we're hearing. Well, I not even know what we're doing, know what we're smelling. Then we unlock our true potential.
And I think, honestly, gratitude. One of the biggest things for us that our mom taught us, and I continue, into my adulthood, is gratitude. Our mom taught us that every single day when you wake up, try to say 10 things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for, my house, for my plants, my brother sometimes. I'm kidding, no, but for my bed. But just say 10 things that you're grateful for. And if you can't just say 10 things that you're grateful for, say 3. And if 3 is too much, every single morning, try to at least do 1. Because gratitude scientifically has the power to improve genetics. It has the power to help with traumatic experiences. It helps change and shift our subconscious from negative to positive. And if we want to be successful, we can't have a negative subconscious. We need that positive consciousness. So I think that's the best thing to at least start. It's free, easy. It takes like 2 seconds to do, and anybody can do it, no matter what age.
And for adults need to listen. Adults need to listen to teens more. Because teens don't like talking to adults.
Yeah, and that's why. So yeah, so we're just gonna throw that extra bonus one out. Yeah, because teens will actually listen to adults when adults really listen to them. Because right now everything's really one-sided, so teens really need someone to actually listen to them instead of just someone that's gonna listen to them.
And then that's why we always say for adults, please listen to help and listen to learn, not listen to advice, because that's what it is. Most adults, they just listen to talk back, but sometimes all we need is for you to be there. So please, like Austin just mentioned, that bonus point, just listen to learn.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much. Let's when I end the stream, we'll still be on for a little bit, so please stay on with me. Guys, if you are on live watching right now, please drop a huge thank you for these folks in the chat. And I do not know why on earth you would not be following them immediately after this. I know that you guys have a second if you were on live. Please go do that. And we will make sure to send out something. I'm going to talk to them about this in a moment, but we'll make sure to send out something when the book is officially launched. So again, thank you guys so much for what you're doing.
Well, it's really our pleasure. So